The axe was cold. That was the only thing Kaia could focus on. Not the jeering crowd, not the rain soaking her thin white dress, and not the Alpha King watching her from his velvet-draped balcony. Just the cold, biting metal of the executioner's blade resting against the nape of her neck. She had been caught stealing a loaf of bread and a silver chalice from the royal pantry. In the Northern Kingdom, theft was a capital offense. King Ronan did not tolerate rats in his larder. "Any last words, thief?" the executioner grunted. Kaia looked up. She saw King Ronan. He was leaning forward on his throne, his face bored, his golden eyes flat. He was a beast of a man, known for two things: his brutality in war and his obsession with securing a bloodline. He had executed 3 wives for failing to give him a son. A desperate, insane idea sparked in Kaia's mind. It was reckless. It was likely to get her killed slower and more painfully, but slower meant alive. She took a breath. "I'm carrying your son," she screamed. "Welcome back, my beautiful family." That is a lie that could cost her everything. Before we find out if King Ronan buys it or if he takes her head right there, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And I want to know, if you had one lie to save your life, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. All right, let's see if Kaia can survive the Alpha King. The silence that fell over the courtyard was instant and absolute. The executioner froze. The crowd stopped jeering. Even the rain seemed to pause. On the balcony, King Ronan stood up. The boredom vanished from his face, replaced by a terrifying intensity. He gripped the stone railing until it cracked. "What did you say?" His voice boomed, carrying over the wind without effort. Kaia swallowed hard. She couldn't turn back now. She had to sell it. "I said," she shouted, her voice trembling only slightly, "that you cannot kill me. By your own laws, Alpha, you cannot execute a pregnant female. I am carrying the royal heir." Ronan vaulted over the railing. It was a 30-foot drop, but he landed in the mud like a cat, his heavy boots sinking into the earth. He stalked toward the execution block, the crowd parting for him like the Red Sea. He smelled of rain, ozone, and lethal power. He stopped inches from her face. He grabbed her chin, forcing her to look into his swirling gold eyes. "You are a kitchen thief," Ronan growled. "I have never touched you. How could you be carrying my pup?" "The Spring Festival," Kaia lied, her mind racing, pulling threads of rumors together. 3 months ago, you were drunk, you wore a mask, you pulled me into the alcove behind the wine cellar." It was a gamble. Everyone knew the king indulged in wine and masked revelry during the festival. He wouldn't remember everyone he touched. Ronan stared at her. His nostrils flared. He was scenting her. Kaia prayed. She prayed to every god she didn't believe in. She had stolen a jar of scent-masking balm from the pantry along with the chalice, a paste used by hunters to hide their scent from deer. She had rubbed it on her skin this morning to hide the smell of her fear. Ronan frowned. "I smell nothing, just herbs and fear." "I am sickness," Kaia improvised. "The pregnancy, it makes me ill. I have been taking herbs to settle my stomach." Ronan's hand moved from her chin to her throat. His thumb pressed against her pulse. It was hammering like a hummingbird. "If you are lying," Ronan whispered, his voice intimate and deadly, "I will not just kill you. I will hand you to the Skinners. Do you understand?" "I am not lying," she breathed, looking him dead in the eye. "Kill me, and you kill your son." Ronan stared at her for a long, agonizing minute. He looked at her flat stomach. He looked at her terrified eyes. He wanted a son. He wanted it more than air. His obsession clouded his judgment just for a second, but a second was all Kaia needed. "Unchain her," Ronan commanded. The executioner hesitated. "Sire?" "I said, unchain her," Ronan roared, his alpha voice slamming into the crowd. "She is under royal protection." The shackles fell away. Kaia rubbed her raw wrists, her knees shaking so hard she couldn't stand. Ronan didn't wait. He scooped her up into his arms. He was warm, terrifyingly so. He carried her through the mud, past the stunned crowd and into the castle. "You will be examined," Ronan said as he carried her up the spiral stairs. "My healers will verify this." "It is too early," Kaia said quickly. "The healers said the pup is faint. They said stress could cause a miscarriage. That is why I stole the food. I was hungry. I was trying to feed him." Ronan's arms tightened around her. "You stole food to feed my son?" "Yes." He kicked open the doors to the royal suite. He walked past the guest rooms, past the servant quarters, and dropped her directly onto the massive fur-covered bed in the center of his own chambers. "You will not steal again," Ronan said. "You will eat the best food in the kingdom. You will rest. You will grow big and healthy." He leaned over her, caging her in with his massive arms. "But you will do it here," Where I can see you, where I can smell you. Kaia pressed herself into the mattress. Here, in your room? If you are carrying my heir, you are my mate by law until the child is born, Ronan said. You sleep where I sleep. He walked to the window and locked it. He walked to the door and threw the heavy bolt. He turned back to her, stripping off his wet tunic. He was made of muscle and scars, a warrior king in his prime. I have 9 months to wait, little thief, Ronan said, watching her with hooded eyes. But I'm not a patient man. If you are carrying my son, prove it. How? By staying alive, Ronan said, and by praying that when the scent masking fades, I smell a second heartbeat. Kaia watched him, terror clawing at her throat. She had bought herself time. But now she was locked in a room with a man who wanted a baby she didn't have. She had to get pregnant, and she had to do it with the man who would kill her if he found out she wasn't. The silence in the royal suite was heavier than the iron chains Kaia had worn an hour ago. The storm outside battered the windows, but inside the fire crackled with a cozy, mocking warmth. Kaia sat on the edge of the bed, a tray of roasted venison and soft bread untouched on her lap. She was starving. She hadn't eaten in 2 days, but her stomach was knotted so tight she thought she might throw up if she swallowed a bite. Ronan sat in a leather chair by the fire, sharpening a dagger. Scritch, scritch, scritch. The sound was rhythmic, hypnotic, and terrifying. He hadn't put on a shirt. He sat there in his breeches, the firelight dancing over the scars on his chest, watching her. Eat, he commanded, not looking up from the blade. My son requires strength. Kaia forced herself to pick up a piece of bread. Her hands were shaking. She tore off a chunk and put it in her mouth. It tasted like dust. It is good, she whispered. It is the best the kitchen has, Ronan said. I fired the cook who let you starve. The new one understands that if you are unhappy, he loses a hand. Kaia choked on the bread. You didn't have to do that. I protect what is mine, Ronan said. He stood up, sheathing the dagger. He walked toward her. Kaia shrank back against the pillows. The scent-masking balm she had stolen was rubbed into the skin of her stomach and neck, but it wasn't permanent. It would wear off in a few hours, and if she sweated or if she bathed, it would wash away. If he smelled her now, really smelled her, he would know she was empty. You are trembling, Ronan observed. He stopped at the edge of the bed. Are you cold? I'm dirty, she said, seizing the excuse. The mud from the courtyard, the dungeon smell, it makes me sick. Then you shall bathe. Ronan clapped his hands. The doors opened and servants rushed in. They didn't look at her. They kept their heads bowed, terrified of the king's wrath. They filled the massive copper tub in the corner of the room with steaming water, scented with rose oil and milk. They left fluffy towels and a silk nightgown. Then they fled, locking the door behind them. Kaia looked at the tub. Then she looked at Ronan. He wasn't leaving. I need privacy, she said. No, Ronan replied simply. He walked over to the tub and tested the water with his hand. You are weak. You nearly fainted on the block. If you slip and fall, you risk the heir. I will not leave you. I won't slip. I'm not asking, Kaia. Get in the water. It wasn't a lecherous command. It was clinical, paranoid. He was guarding an incubator. Kaia stood up. Her hands went to the laces of her ruined dress. She turned her back to him, her fingers fumbling. She peeled the dirty fabric down. The cool air hit her skin. She stepped out of the dress, and the thin shift beneath it, naked in the firelight. She heard Ronan's breath hitch. She stepped into the water quickly, sinking down until the milky liquid covered her to her chin. The heat was glorious, soaking into her frozen bones, but panic clawed at her throat. The water would wash away the balm. The rose oil might cover it for a moment, but not for long. Ronan walked to the edge of the tub. He sat on a stool, watching her. His eyes were dark, tracking a droplet of water that ran down her neck. You are beautiful, he murmured. For a thief. Thieving is a skill, she said, her voice tight. Like war. Why did you steal? Hunger. And the chalice? Greed, she lied. She couldn't tell him she needed the chalice to pay a bribe to get out of the city. I wanted pretty things. Ronan reached out. He trailed a finger through the water, circling her shoulder. You will have pretty things now. You will have gold, silk, jewels. You will have the world, Kaia, as long as you give me what I want. A son, she whispered. A legacy, he corrected. My first wife. She gave me a stillborn daughter. My second wife. She was barren. The council says I am cursed. They say the wolf god has forsaken my line. His hand moved underwater. He wasn't groping her. He placed his large, warm palm flat against her stomach. Kaia stopped breathing. But here, Ronan whispered, a look of reverence crossing his harsh face. Here, the curse breaks. I can feel him. He couldn't. There was nothing to feel, but his desperation was so strong it was creating a phantom sensation. He needed this to be true. But as his hand rested there, the water washed over her skin. The scent-masking balm was dissolving. Kaia smelled it, the sharp chemical tang of the herbs washing away, revealing her natural scent underneath, vanilla and fear. And emptiness. The scent of an omega in heat, not an omega with child. Ronan frowned, his nostrils flared. "Your scent," he murmured, leaning closer. "It is changing." Kaia's heart hammered. She had seconds. "The rose oil," she said quickly, splashing water slightly. "It's strong. It's making me dizzy. Ronan, please. I feel faint." She let her head loll back, fluttering her eyes. Ronan was instantly in motion. "Easy," he growled. He reached into the water, grabbing her under the arms. He lifted her out, dripping wet and naked. He didn't look at her body with lust. He looked at her with panic. He wrapped her in a massive towel, bundling her up like a child. "I told you were weak," he chided, carrying her to the bed. He laid her down. The crisis was averted, but the clock was ticking faster now. The bomb was gone. If he scented her closely again, he would know. She needed a distraction, and she needed to get pregnant, fast. Ronan was hovering over her, tucking the furs around her chin. He looked worried. Kaia reached out. Her hand, clean now, soft from the bath, touched his bare chest. She traced the line of a scar that ran over his heart. Ronan froze. He looked down at her hand, then at her eyes. "What are you doing?" His voice was rough. "You saved me," she whispered. It wasn't a lie. He had saved her from the axe. "Thank you. I saved my son." "You saved me," she insisted. She slid her hand up his chest, curling her fingers around the nape of his neck. She pulled him down. Ronan resisted for a second. "You are fragile. The pregnancy—" "I'm not fragile," she breathed. "And the healers say affection is good for the pup. It strengthens the bond." She made it up on the spot, but Ronan's eyes dilated. The logic of the wolf brain took over. Bonding good, mate good. He lowered his head. His lips brushed hers. It was meant to be gentle, but the moment they touched, the dynamic shifted. Ronan groaned, a low, guttural sound that vibrated against her mouth. He kissed her hard, possessive, and starving. Kaia kissed him back. She had to. This was her survival. This was the only way to make the lie true. But as his weight settled over her, as his skin heated hers, she realized with a jolt of terror that it wasn't just survival. She wanted him. She wanted the monster who had threatened to kill her. Ronan pulled back, breathing heavily. He looked at her with a mixture of hunger and confusion. "You taste," he whispered, "like trouble." "Then you should probably keep an eye on me," she replied, pulling him back down. That night, the Alpha King did not sleep on his side of the bed. He claimed his thief. And Kaia, driven by fear and a sudden, overwhelming desire, opened herself to him, praying that the moon goddess would grant her a miracle before the sun rose. The next morning, Kaia woke alone. The space beside her was cold. Panic spiked instantly. Had he found out? Was he getting the axe? The door opened. Ronan walked in. He was fully dressed in royal leathers, his crown on his head. He looked grim. Behind him walked a woman in gray robes carrying a satchel. "You are awake," Ronan said. There was no warmth in his voice. "Good." He gestured to the woman. "This is healer Corinne. She's the best in the kingdom." Kaia pulled the sheet up to her chin. I told you, it is too early for an exam. The stress. Corinne is not here to examine you," Ronan said. He walked to the foot of the bed, his face unreadable. "She's here to take a blood sample." Kaia's blood ran cold. A blood sample would show everything. It would show no hormones, no baby. "Why?" she squeaked. "To test for the gender," Ronan said. "There is an old alchemy. It can tell if the heir is male or female within weeks." He leaned forward, resting his hands on the bedpost. "I want to know if I should prepare a sword or a crown, Kaia. Give her your arm." Kaia looked at the healer. The woman had a needle. She looked at Ronan. He was watching her with that hawk-like intensity. He suspected. Maybe he didn't know for sure, but he suspected. The bath had washed away too much scent. She had to think. She had to do something. "No," Kaia said. Ronan's eyes narrowed. "No?" "I will not let her prick me," Kaia said, her voice rising, channeling every ounce of drama she could muster. "It is bad luck. My grandmother, she was a seer. She said if you draw blood before the first kick, the spirit will flee." "Superstition," Ronan scoffed. "Give her your arm." "If you touch me with that needle," Kaia shouted, grabbing a heavy vase from the nightstand and smashing it on the floor, "I will throw myself out the window." The violence of the outburst shocked them. The healer jumped back. Ronan straightened up, looking at the shattered porcelain. "You are hysterical," he said slowly. "I am a mother protecting her child," Kaia screamed, tears springing to her eyes, real tears of absolute terror. You care more about knowing the gender than keeping him safe. Get her out, or I will scream until I bleed. Ronan stared at her. He looked at the healer, who was looking very uncomfortable. The hormones, the healer whispered to the king. In the early stages, they can cause extreme volatility. It is a sign of a strong pregnancy, sire. Ronan looked back at Kaia. She was panting, clutching a shard of porcelain like a weapon. She looked insane. She looked fierce. He nodded. Leave us, he told the healer. But sire, the test, I said leave. The healer fled. Ronan turned back to Kaia. He didn't look angry. He looked impressed. You would fight me? He asked softly. You would fight the king to protect a superstition? I would fight the gods, she hissed, dropping the shard. Ronan walked around the bed. He sat down. He pulled her into his lap, ignoring her struggles. He buried his face in her hair. Good, he rumbled. That is good. A mother must be vicious. Our enemies are many. He kissed her neck. Keep your secrets, Kaia, for now. But know this. The moment that child kicks, I am knowing everything. Kaia slumped against him, her heart rattling in her chest. She had won another day, but she checked the calendar in her mind. Her heat was due in 2 days. If she didn't conceive, then she was dead. Here is part 3 of 5. 2 days later, the royal suite looked less like a prison and more like a treasury. Ronan was a man of his word. He had promised her pretty things, and he delivered them with the aggressive efficiency of a general conquering a city. He didn't just give her jewelry, he buried her in it. Chests of gold, necklaces of heavy emeralds, silks from the southern isles, they piled up on the tables and chairs. Kaia sat in the middle of it all, wearing a diamond necklace that cost more than the village she was born in, feeling like a corpse being decorated for a funeral. It is too much, she said, pushing a tray of ruby rings away. Ronan stood by the fireplace watching her. He was dressed for court, black velvet and a heavy iron crown. He looked regal and terrifying. It is necessary, he said. Tonight, I present you to the council. They need to see that you are not just a thief. They need to see that you are valued. If I drape you in the kingdom's wealth, they will hesitate to bite you. They will bite anyway, Kaia murmured. They will see a rat in diamonds. Then they will break their teeth, Ronan growled. He walked over to her, his heavy boots thudding on the rugs. He reached down and adjusted the necklace, his fingers brushing her collarbone. You are nervous. I'm terrified. Good. Stay close to me. If anyone speaks to you without permission, do not answer. Look at me. I will answer for you. He offered his hand. Kaia took it. His grip was warm, solid, an anchor in the storm she had created. The walk to the great hall was a gauntlet. Servants pressed themselves against the walls, whispering. Guards struck their chests in salute, but their eyes lingered on her stomach. Everyone was looking for the bump. There was no bump. It had been, according to her lie, 3 months. She should be showing. She had padded her undergarments with a small layer of wool. It was a risk, but a flat stomach would be a death sentence. The doors opened. The noise of the banquet hit them like a physical wave. Music, laughter, the clatter of silverware. It all died the moment the herald announced them. His Majesty, King Ronan, and the carrier of the heir, Kaia. Not queen, not consort, carrier. She was a vessel. That was her title. Ronan led her to the high table. He sat her on his right, in the chair usually reserved for visiting royalty. He didn't sit until she was settled. He poured her wine, watered down, himself. The council members sat across from them. Duke Marcus, a man with a face like a dried apple and eyes like a snake, watched Kaia with open hostility. He had been trying to marry his daughter to Ronan for 5 years. So, Marcus said, his voice oily, this is the miracle. This is Kaia, Ronan said sharply. Watch your tone, Marcus. I meant no offense, sire. It is just remarkable. A kitchen thief caught stealing silver, suddenly carrying the future of the North. The timing is convenient. Kaia felt Ronan tensed beside her, his fork bent in his hand. Fate is rarely convenient, Kaia said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. She remembered the script she had rehearsed in her head. It is usually messy, like war or birth. Marcus blinked. He hadn't expected the vessel to speak. Indeed, Marcus sneered. And how is the pregnancy progressing? You look remarkably slender for 3 months. The prince sits deep, Ronan interjected, his voice a low rumble. The healers say he is strong. He takes his strength from the mother. Healers, Marcus hummed. Yes, I spoke to healer Corinne. She mentioned she was unable to perform the blood tests due to superstition. The table went silent. This was the attack. Marcus was calling the bluff. The mother's instincts are absolute, Ronan said, his eyes flashing gold. Or perhaps, Marcus leaned forward, the mother is hiding something. Perhaps there is no heir. Perhaps she is simply a whore who knows how to bargain for her life. Ronan moved so fast the eye couldn't follow. 1 second he was sitting, the next he was across the table. He grabbed Marcus by the throat and slammed him into the stone wall. The chair clattered to the floor. "Say that word again," Ronan whispered, his face inches from the Duke's turning purple face. "Say it, and I will rip your tongue out through your neck." The hall erupted into chaos. Guards drew swords. Ladies screamed. Kaia sat frozen. She watched Ronan holding a powerful Duke in the air like a rag doll. She saw the violence in him, the absolute unhinged protectiveness. And then she felt it. A cramp. It started low in her belly, a sharp, twisting pain. Panic flooded her veins. "Not now," she prayed. "Please, not now." It was her cycle, her heat. It was starting. If she started bleeding now, in front of the court, in front of the king, the game was over. They would smell it. They would know she wasn't pregnant. Pregnant wolves didn't cycle. She stood up. The chair scraped loudly. "Ronan?" she cried out. She didn't mean to sound so desperate, but the pain was real. She doubled over, clutching her stomach. Ronan dropped the Duke instantly. He turned, his rage vanishing, replaced by pure terror. "Kaia!" He was at her side in a heartbeat. He caught her as she swayed. "The baby," someone whispered. "She's losing it." "Get the healer!" Ronan roared. "No," Kaia gasped, gripping Ronan's tunic. "No healers, no touching, just take me upstairs, please. It's just the stress. I need to lie down." "You are in pain. I need you," she whispered urgently, pressing her face into his neck to mask her scent with his. "Just you. Take me away from them." Ronan didn't argue. He scooped her up. He glared at the room, daring anyone to speak. "The banquet is over," he snarled. He carried her out of the hall, running up the stairs. Kaia buried her face in his chest, breathing shallowly. The cramp came again, harder. Her body was preparing to shed, preparing to restart the cycle. She had hours, maybe minutes, before the scent became undeniable. Ronan kicked open the door to the suite and laid her on the bed. He was frantic. He was checking her face, her pulse. "Where does it hurt? Tell me." "My stomach," she groaned. "It's cramping." "I'm getting Corinne." "No!" Kaia grabbed his hand. "Ronan, listen to me. It's not the baby. It's me. I'm just overwhelmed. If you bring a healer, they will poke and prod and stress me more. I just need to rest. I need you to hold me." "You are sure?" "I'm sure." "Please." Ronan hesitated. He looked at the door, then back at her. He nodded. Okay. He climbed onto the bed, fully clothed, boots and all. He pulled her against him, his hand resting cautiously on her stomach. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I shouldn't have taken you down there. I exposed you to them. I failed." "You didn't fail," Kaia said, her voice tight with pain and guilt. "You defended me." She lay there, her mind racing. The heat was coming. She could feel the fever starting under her skin. If she didn't conceive tonight, if she didn't catch this cycle right now, she would bleed in the morning, and he would kill her. She had to turn this into an opportunity. She turned in his arms. She pressed her body against his. She looked up at him. "Ronan," she said breathlessly, "make me forget them." Ronan frowned. "You are in pain. I need to feel you," she said, desperate. "I need to feel alive. Please." She kissed him. She put everything into it. Her fear, her need, her desperation. She needed his scent to cover hers. She needed his seed to stop the cycle. Ronan resisted for a moment, confused by the sudden shift. But Kaia was persistent. She was fighting for her life. She pulled at his tunic. She guided his hands to her skin. And Ronan was a man who had been starving for affection for years. He was a man who thought this woman carried his soul in her womb. He broke. He kissed her back, fierce and claiming. He stripped the gown from her, tossing the jewels aside like trash. He worshipped her body with a reverence that made Kaia want to weep. "My queen," he murmured against her skin. "My life." They came together in a tangle of furs and desperation. Kaia clung to him, wrapping her legs around his waist, praying to the moon goddess she had scorned. "Let it work," she begged silently as he moved inside her. "Let him give me a son. Let me live." But as the pleasure spiked, as the release claimed them both, a terrible thought wormed its way into her heart. She wasn't just doing this to survive anymore. She loved him. She loved the monster who defended her. She loved the father who talked to a stomach that wasn't there. And when he found out the truth, that betrayal would hurt him more than any dagger. Morning came with a different kind of terror. Kaia woke up before dawn. She rushed to the bathing chamber. She checked herself. No blood. She let out a sob of relief. The heat had stalled. Or maybe Maybe it had worked. Maybe his seed had taken hold that fast. Werewolf biology was potent. She washed quickly, scenting the air. The metallic tang of the impending cycle was gone, replaced by the heavy, musky scent of the alpha's claim. She smelled like him. She smelled like sex and power. It was the perfect disguise. She walked back into the bedroom. Ronan was awake. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. "Ronan?" He looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. He looked devastated. "I hurt you," he rasped. "Last night, you were in pain and you didn't hurt me," she said quickly, going to him. She stood between his knees, running her hands through his hair. "You helped me. You made the pain go away." He wrapped his arms around her waist, burying his face in her stomach. "I am a beast," he muttered. "I cannot control myself around you. I don't want you to control yourself." He sighed, his breath hot through her thin nightgown. He stayed there for a long time, listening. "He is quiet today," Ronan whispered. "Usually, I feel a hum. Today, it is quiet." Kaia froze. He was talking about the baby that didn't exist yet. "He is resting," she lied. We exerted him." Ronan pulled back. He looked at her seriously. "I have to go to the border," he said. "The southern pack, they are moving. Vok is testing the lines. I have to lead the army." "You're leaving?" Panic flared. If he left, she was alone with the council, alone with the healers. "I have to, but I'm not leaving you here." He stood up. "Pack your things, Kaia. You are coming with me." To war?" "To the war camp," Ronan said. "It is the safest place. My tent is surrounded by my personal guard. No healers, no council, just soldiers who follow orders." He cupped her face. "I will not leave you in a nest of vipers while I'm gone. You are coming where I can protect you." Kaia nodded. The war camp. It was dangerous, yes, but it bought her time. No healers meant no blood tests, and the chaos of war was a good place to hide secrets. "I'll be ready," she said. The war camp was a city of canvas and mud, sprawling across the valley floor beneath the looming peaks of the Razor Mountains. It smelled of smoke, horse sweat, and the metallic tang of sharpening steel. For Kaia, it was paradise. Here, no one cared about royal protocol. No one whispered about her bloodline or her accent. The soldiers saw her only as the carrier, the woman holding the future of the kingdom. They treated her with a rough, superstitious reverence. They brought her extra blankets. They carved wooden toys for the little king. They guarded her tent with a ferocity that rivaled Ronan's own. And Ronan was different here. Gone was the brooding, paranoid king of the citadel. In his place was the warlord. He spent his days in the command tent, moving markers on maps, shouting orders that sent thousands of men into motion. He was decisive, brilliant, and terrifying. But every night, he returned to their shared tent. He would strip off his armor, wash the grime of command from his skin, and simply lie with her. "Are you warm enough?" he would ask, pulling the heavy bear furs over her. "I am fine, Ronan. Did you eat the stew? The cook said you didn't finish it. It was too salty. I will have him flogged. Don't you dare. He's trying his best." He would grumble, but he would listen. He would place his hand on her stomach, still flat, still silent, and fall asleep instantly, exhausted by the weight of the crown. For 3 weeks, they lived in this bubble of war and domesticity. Kaia felt the changes in her body. The morning sickness started, real sickness this time, not feigned. Her breasts were tender. She was tired all the time. It had worked. The night of the banquet, the desperation, it had worked. She was carrying his child. The lie had become the truth. She should have been relieved. She should have told him. But fear held her tongue. If she told him now, "Oh, by the way, I conceived 3 weeks ago, not 4 months ago," he would do the math. He would know she had lied to save her neck. He would know she had manipulated him. So she kept silent, praying the baby would just be small. Then the attack came. It was a moonless night. The camp was asleep. Kaia was dreaming of silver wolves running through snow. A horn blast shattered the night. "Ambush!" The tent flap ripped open. Ronan was on his feet before Kaia even opened her eyes. He grabbed his sword. "Stay down!" he roared at her. "Get under the bed! Ronan, do it!" He charged out into the night. The sounds of battle erupted instantly. Clashing steel, screams, the roar of shifting wolves. Kaia scrambled under the heavy wooden frame of the field bed. She huddled there, clutching her stomach, listening to the chaos. Shadows moved across the canvas walls. Firelight flickered. Then the tent collapsed. Someone had cut the ropes. Heavy canvas smothered her, trapping her in darkness. She smelled smoke. The tent was on fire. Panic, blind and primal, seized her. She clawed at the fabric, coughing as smoke filled her lungs. "My baby," she thought. "I can't die. Not now." Strong hands grabbed her ankle. She was dragged out, coughing and retching, into the cold night air. She looked up, expecting Ronan. It wasn't Ronan. It was Vok, the rogue general, the leader of the Southern Army. He was huge, scarred, and smiling. He held a curved blade dripping with blood. "So," Vok sneered, looking down at her, "this is the treasure Ronan hides in his tent." Kaia scrambled back, crab-walking through the mud. "Don't touch me." "Where is he?" Vok asked, looking around. "Where is the mighty king, probably dying in the mud with his men?" "He will kill you," Kaia spat. "Maybe, but first, I'm going to kill his hope." Vok raised the sword. He didn't aim for her neck. He aimed for her stomach. "No!" Kaia didn't scream it. She roared it, and then she shifted. It shouldn't have been possible. She was an Omega. Omegas didn't have combat forms. They didn't have the rage required to force the change without the moon. But she was a mother defending her young. Bones cracked, skin tore, the white dress shredded. In her place stood a wolf. Not a massive war beast like Ronan, but a sleek, silver-white wolf with eyes like winter storms. She lunged. She hit Vok in the chest, knocking him backward into the mud. Her jaws clamped onto his sword arm. She bit down, bone crunched. Vok screamed, dropping the blade. He kicked her off, sending her flying. She hit a supply wagon with a thud that rattled her teeth. She scrambled up, snarling, ready to attack again. But Vok was already shifting. He turned into a russet-colored monster twice her size. He lunged for her throat. A black blur intercepted him. Ronan, he hit Vok like a freight train. The two alphas rolled through the mud, a ball of teeth and fury. It wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Ronan tore Vok's throat out in 3 seconds. He stood over the body, heaving, blood dripping from his muzzle. He turned his wild golden eyes to the silver wolf, shivering by the wagon. He froze. He shifted back to human form, not caring about his nakedness in the freezing air. "Kaia?" he whispered. Kaia shifted. It was painful, exhausting. She curled into a ball on the muddy ground, shivering violently. She was naked, covered in mud, bleeding from a cut on her flank. Ronan was there instantly. He ripped a cloak from a dead soldier and wrapped her in it. He picked her up, holding her so tight she squeaked. "You shifted," he said, his voice filled with awe and terror. "You fought him. He tried to hurt the baby," she sobbed. Ronan looked at Vok's corpse, then he looked at her. He buried his face in her neck, inhaling deeply. And then he went still. He pulled back. He looked at her face. He sniffed again, lower, near her stomach. The battle was dying down around them. His men were securing the perimeter, but in that circle of firelight, the world stopped. "Kaia," Ronan said. His voice was different. It wasn't the voice of the king. It was the voice of a man who had just realized something impossible. "I smell it," he whispered. "Blood. New blood." Kaia's heart stopped. "I'm bleeding?" "No," Ronan shook his head. "Not injury blood. Lifeblood. I smell 2 hearts." He looked at her, his eyes wide, gold swirling with shock. "It is faint," he said. "It is new, very new." He looked at her stomach, then at her eyes. "You said you were 4 months along." Kaia couldn't breathe. The adrenaline was fading, leaving the truth bare and shivering in the cold. "If you were 4 months along," Ronan said slowly, the gears turning in his alpha mind, "the scent would be strong. It would be established. This is weeks old. Maybe a month." He stared at her. The realization hit him like a physical blow. "You lied." It wasn't a question. "Ronan," she whispered, reaching for him. He stepped back. He looked at her as if she were a stranger, as if she were Vok. "You lied!" he roared. The sound terrified the remaining soldiers. "On the execution block, in my bed, to the council, you lied!" "I had to," she cried. "You were going to kill me." "I took you into my home," he shouted, pacing in the mud, his hands pulling at his hair. "I gave you my mother's comb. I started a war for you. And it was all a trick? A thief's game?" "It wasn't a game. I was terrified. And the baby?" He pointed a shaking finger at her stomach. "Is that a trick too? Did you find a witch to fake the scent?" "No, it's real. It's yours." "Mine?" He laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "From when? From the nights I held you thinking I was protecting my heir? From the nights I worshipped you because I thought you carried a miracle?" He looked at her, with eyes full of betrayal. "You manipulated me. You used my grief. You used my son's memory to save your own skin." "I fell in love with you," Kaia screamed. "I didn't plan that. I love you." "Love?" Ronan scoffed. "Thieves don't know love. They only know leverage." He turned his back on her. "Take her," he commanded the guards who had gathered. "Take her back to the citadel. Put her in the tower, not the suite, the cell." "Ronan, please." "Do not speak to me," he said, his voice cold as the grave. Until that child is born, you are nothing to me but an incubator, and once it is born, we will see if you are worth keeping alive." He walked away into the darkness, leaving her kneeling in the mud, surrounded by the wreckage of the war she had survived and the love she had just destroyed. The tower was different from the royal suite. It wasn't a dungeon. Ronan wasn't cruel enough to put a pregnant woman in the damp, but it was a prison. The door was iron. The windows were barred. The guards outside didn't speak to her. Kaia spent 7 months in that room. 7 months of watching her belly swell. 7 months of feeling the vigorous kicks of a son who had no idea his parents were at war. 7 months of silence. Ronan visited. He came every evening at sunset. He would stand on the other side of the bars watching her. He never entered. He never spoke. He just watched, his golden eyes tracking every movement, ensuring she was eating, ensuring the air was safe. He looked terrible. He was thinner. His beard was unkempt. He looked like a man haunting his own castle. "You could come in," Kaia said one evening, resting her hand on the high curve of her stomach. "He kicked today. You could feel it." Ronan gripped the bars. His knuckles were white. "I'm not here for you." "You're a terrible liar, Ronan. You hate yourself more than you hate me." He didn't answer. He turned and walked away, his heavy boots echoing down the stone corridor. Kaia sat back on the bed. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was just sad. She missed him. She missed the monster who had brushed her hair. She missed the king who had declared war for her. She rubbed her belly. "Your father is an idiot," she whispered to the baby. "But we're going to fix him." The labor started during a thunderstorm. It was fitting. Their relationship had begun in a storm. It would change in one. Pain ripped through Kaia, sudden and violent. She cried out, doubling over. The water broke, soaking the simple linen shift she wore. "Guards!" she screamed. The door unlocked instantly. Ronan hadn't been far. He burst in, followed by healer Corinne and 2 midwives. "It's time," Ronan said, his face pale. "Get the water. Get the towels." He stayed by the door. He looked like he wanted to vomit. "Get out," Corinne told him. "Alphas are no use here. You'll just panic." "I am staying," Ronan growled. "You are distressed," Corinne snapped. "Your pheromones are spiking. You are scaring the mother. Get out." Ronan looked at Kaia. She was gripping the bedsheets, her face contorted in pain. She looked small, fragile. He hesitated. Then he turned and fled. He paced the corridor outside for 12 hours. Every scream from inside the room felt like a physical blow. He shredded the tapestries on the walls. He broke a stone bench with his fist. He thought about the execution block. He thought about the day he almost killed her. He thought about the lie. "She lied to survive," a voice whispered in his head. "You gave her no choice. You were the monster." A silence fell inside the room, a terrifying, heavy silence. Then Corinne opened the door. She was covered in blood. Her face was gray. "Sire," she whispered, "there are complications. The cord, it was wrapped. The baby is stuck." Ronan felt his heart stop. "Save him." "We are trying." "But Kaia, she is weak. She is fading. We might have to choose, sire." Corinne looked at him. The heir or the mother? It was the question that had defined his life. He had lost 3 wives for the sake of an heir. He had wanted a son more than anything in the world. Ronan pushed past her. He stormed into the room. The air smelled of iron and fear. Kaia was pale, her eyes closed, her breathing shallow. Ronan dropped to his knees beside the bed. He grabbed her hand. It was cold. "Kaia," he choked out. "Kaia, look at me." Her eyelids fluttered. "Ronan, save him, please." "No," Ronan said. He looked at Corinne. "Save her. Do whatever you have to do. Cut him out if you must, but keep her alive. I do not want the heir if it costs me my mate." Kaia's eyes widened. "But the legacy." "You are my legacy," Ronan shouted, tears streaming down his face. "I don't care about the crown. I don't care about the bloodline. I want you. I love you, you stupid lying thief. Don't you dare leave me." He buried his face in her neck, sobbing. The great Alpha King, broken by love. "Push," he whispered into her skin. "Fight, Kaia. Fight like you fought Vok. Fight like you fought me." Maybe it was his voice. Maybe it was the surge of alpha energy he poured into her. Or maybe Kaia just really hated leaving things unfinished. She screamed. She bore down. She fought. And then a cry. A thin, wavering wail that grew into a lusty roar. "It's a boy!" the midwife cried. "By the moon, he's huge. A true alpha." Ronan didn't look at the baby. He watched Kaia. Her chest heaved. Her eyes closed. But her pulse was strong. She was sleeping. She was alive. Ronan slumped against the bed frame, burying his head in his hands, and wept. Kaia woke up to gold. The room was filled with it, sunlight streaming through the windows. golden flowers in vases on every table, and golden eyes watching her. She was back in the royal suite. The prison tower was a memory. Ronan was sitting in the chair next to the bed. He was holding a small bundle. He looked cleaned up, his hair washed, but his eyes were tired. "You're awake," he said softly. "I'm alive," she croaked. "Barely." He stood up. He walked over to the bed and sat down carefully. He angled the bundle so she could see. The baby was beautiful. He had a tuft of black hair and skin that was already flushing pink. He was sleeping with his fists clenched, ready to fight the world. "He looks like you," Kaia whispered. "He has your nose," Ronan said. "And your stubbornness." He bit the wet nurse. Kaia laughed, then winced as her muscles protested. Ronan handed her the baby. He watched them, mother and son, with a look of profound hunger. Not for power, for connection. "Kaia," he said. She looked up. "I'm sorry." He slid off the bed and knelt on the floor. He didn't care that he was king. He knelt like a penitent. "I blamed you for lying," he said, his voice rough, "but I was the one holding the axe. I forced you to lie. I made this world so dangerous that you had to become a thief to survive it." He took her hand, pressing it to his forehead. "I don't want an incubator. I don't want a vessel. I want my wife. I want the woman who stole a silver chalice because she was hungry. I want the woman who shifted into a wolf to save my life." He looked up at her. "Will you forgive a foolish man? Will you let me earn you back?" Kaia looked at him. She saw the regret. She saw the love. "You kept me in a tower for 7 months, she said. "I know. You missed the kicks. I know. I will regret that every day of my life. You have a lot of making up to do, Ronan." "I have a lifetime," he promised. "I will grovel every day. I will buy you every silver chalice in the kingdom. I will burn the tower down." Kaia smiled. She leaned down and kissed him. It was forgiveness. It was a new contract. "Start with the chalice," she whispered. "I still owe that merchant." 3 years later, the pantry of the northern citadel was being raided. "Be quiet," a small voice whispered. "Papa will hear." "Papa is in a meeting," a deeper voice whispered back. Kaia crouched behind a barrel of flour, holding a finger to her lips. Beside her sat Prince Torian, 3 years old, holding a stolen apple. They were hiding. It was a game. "The thief and the prince." The door creaked open. Heavy boots entered. "I know you're in here," King Ronan rumbled. He sounded stern, but there was laughter in his voice. "I can smell the apples." Torian giggled. Ronan reached over the barrel and scooped the boy up, swinging him into the air. Torian shrieked with delight. "Caught!" Ronan roared. "And the accomplice?" He peered behind the barrel. Kaia smiled up at him, flour on her nose. "I surrender," she said, raising her hands. Ronan pulled her up. He kissed the flour off her nose. He kissed her lips. He held his family, his thief and his heir, in his arms. "The penalty for theft," Ronan murmured against her mouth, "is life imprisonment in the king's arms." "I accept the sentence," Kaia said, and outside the snow fell in a kingdom that was finally truly warm.